So this is going to adjustments that are already in place, and adjustments, our loan level price adjustments, are always going to benefit those that have better credit. Okay. So these costs that we have, these additions that we have, is this real money? It absolutely is real money. It 100% is, but it's going on top of a matrix that already exists that is swayed towards people with good credit.
The management and transparency is what's very important. So once you submit a referral, you're going to have your own Home Advantage account, and it's going to tell you where everything sits. So if you have 10 referrals that you've sent into the network, it's going to give you all 10 referrals. It's going to tell you every milestone that that client is sitting in, whether they're touring homes, whether they're in escrow. And you now can manage through the Home Advantage application as far as what your pipeline looks like for the referrals that you've sent. And so it's pretty sophisticated, and it's all click of a button, guys.
All right, there, LabCoatAgents. I am Sean Curley here with USA Mortgage with my buddy, Mr. Brian Stevens with the National Real Estate Post. Hello, Hand. How are you?
Hey.
This is the state of the month for May 1st, a big date. Well, Brian, on your show last week, you guys hit it almost every darn day. There's been a lot of news articles, some clickbait, some actual fact. There's been a lot of going back and forth about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac's loan level price adjustments, which we're going to get into and try and cut through all the crap. And so educate people on how to explain what is actually going on here, because it is a change, and it's a change that we do not agree with on the higher end scores, but we like the lower end scores. But anyway, let's talk about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they're the agencies that actually make the rules for conventional lending if those loans are getting sold on the secondary market. So Brian, I'm going to use you as an example. I do your mortgage. I am a correspondent lender, so I process, I underwrite, I fund with my own money, but I lock your interest rate with Wells Fargo. So you start making, we close, high fives, here's your keys. You start making your monthly payments to Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo does not own that paper. They actually send it to Fannie or Freddie, depending on who's going. Fannie and Freddie, they actually they bundle those loans up and sell them onto the mortgage-backed securities market for, investors, governments, countries, businesses, people actually buy these investments. So Wells Fargo is the one that's just collecting your monthly payments and getting a service, getting a little bit of taste on the servicing rates on there. So Fannie and Freddie are the ones that actually make the decisions, and we have to follow their rules. Back in the housing crash, Fannie and Freddie came under a lot of turbulence because of mortgages failing, since they're the ones that were guaranteeing all of these loans going through. And a lot of loans, we could go into crazy loan products back then, but a lot of them started to fail. So all the wheels started shaking really hard on the building, and the government basically came in September 6th of 2008, knocked on the door, said, "Hey, corner office guy, get the hell out. We're taking over." So they went into what's called conservatorship, government control since 2008. They got a bailout, or basically the government allowed them to purchase a bunch of securities to keep everything turning, the system going. And they've been in the conservatorship since 2008. And what's nuts, and we talked about this in the past, but they're still under government control, and they've actually paid back. You told me the numbers before, but they took out, $187 billion as far as for the bailout. But how much have Fannie and Freddie paid back in total to the United States government?
Not a penny, not a red cent. No,
so
seriously.
They haven't paid anything to the government.
Let me explain. They haven't paid back one single penny. They currently they borrowed $116 billion for Fannie Mae for their bailout, $71 billion for Freddie Mac, for a total of $187 billion. They have been paying on this since 2009, maybe 2010, 2009, 2010. And they have paid back to Freddie Mac. They paid back $167.3 billion. Remember, they borrowed $116, they paid back $167 billion. So they paid back $50 billion more than they borrowed they paid back 50 billion more than they borrowed to Freddie. And Fannie, they borrowed 71 billion and they paid back 112 billion, which is about another 50 billion more to them too. That's $100 billion profit. Not bad, huh?
So
now here's the thing. They didn't pay down one penny, because what happened is when the Treasury and the United States government came out and decided to put in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac into conservatorship, they created a new stock which superseded the common stock. So the preferred stock, which is owned, 98% of it is owned by the federal government, and that gives them rights to do whatever they choose to do in terms of conservatorship, how long it will last, and the direction that both of the government-sponsored enterprises will go. Remember, Fannie and Freddie have always been considered a quasi-government private sector relationship where we got investments from, people like me and you, and they would buy common stock, and they would get seats on the board, and they would get to have participation with the direction of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Those days are gone. That ship has sailed. The federal government came in, created the preferred stock. Now they wholly own Fannie and Freddie. It's a government enterprise now. It's not a government private enterprise. It's a government enterprise now. And what they've done is they've just changed the terms of everything that they said they were going to do. For example, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are in the longest conservatorship in the history of this country. That's a fact. You know who they beat out?
Who's that?
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. You know who they beat out?
Mm-mm.
Britney Spears' conservatorship with her parents.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that crazy?
Nice.
The longest conservatorship in the history of the country. Now, conservatorship by definition is supposed to only be around as long as it's deemed necessary until that company is stabilized, it's profitable, and you can give that back to the private sector to where they could go ahead and establish the greater good for the community at large. Well, Fannie and Freddie, over the course of the past decade plus, have been the most successful company in the history of the world. That's also a fact. They have made more money over the past decade and a half than, pick your poison.
Amazon.
BP,
Apple. Yeah.
Chevron, Exxon. I think of the oil companies out there, Tesla, not even Tesla, SpaceX. Who could you think of? They've made more money than all of these guys, and they've lapped most of them. So them being in conservatorship is a tad bit disingenuous. Now, see, here's the thing. Well, Brian, how could they have not paid down any of the principal balance on their $187 billion bailout? Because of that preferred stock that I just explained to you, that money is going as dividend payments to the federal government for owning the preferred stock. This is precisely the reason why Fannie and Freddie have been in a litigious situation for nearly 2 decades now with the holder of those common stocks. Now, just imagine real quickly, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but imagine if part of your retirement portfolio as a hardworking middle-class American, you saved up and part of your 401k or your SEP IRA or whatever the case is, has Fannie and Freddie stock in there, common stock. Let's say you've owned this stock for 40 years, 50 years, and you get a modest return on that you're living on after you've retired. Well, that modest return that you're getting that you're living on is now gone. Because when the preferred stock came in from the federal government, they ceased all payments whatsoever to anybody who owned common stock. So now those common stockholders have no decision in the direction of the GSEs, and they receive no money for their investment that they have with the company. And oh, by the way, their stock is basically value less right now, because who wants to buy stock if it's a lame duck stock? So when we see the changes to the loan level price adjustments, as we've just seen recently come down right now, how can this happen right now? Well, it can happen for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the federal government can do at will, particularly the administration, the executive branch of the administration can do what they want to do at will, because they are accountable to absolutely nobody anymore.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot there, and I know that we're laying the groundwork of what we're going to talk about here, just on how this works. But you said that it's the longest conservatorship ever on record, and
right.
They're the most profitable companies in the entire world.
Yep,
which is nuts. So ultimately, this is a great shot in the arm whenever the government needs like a revenue source. Let's just keep them over here, keep on doing what they're doing, look the other way. But each and every month, we just take all the revenue off their books and say, thank you, keep on doing the good work, guys and girls. We appreciate you. And let's get to, go ahead.
Can I add one thing here?
Yes.
Just for those of you who are watching, this is really important to understand. when I said that the federal government changed the rules of engagement once they went into conservatorship and they created that preferred stock, they had an agreement to pay back this bailout.
Mhm.
And if that plan had stayed in place, they would have been out of conservatorship a decade ago, and the bailout would have been completely paid off. But the federal government, when they had their preferred stock, they changed the rules of engagement. What they did is they had a quarterly sweep of profits. That means they took all of the profits that Fannie and Freddie made and they just took them. They didn't take a monthly payment. They took everything they had. What this has done is it has created a situation where Fannie and Freddie cannot recapitalize their coffers. They need to recapitalize their money in the event of foreclosures in the future, so they would have money to pay it off, just like any insurance bond that you have. But they haven't been able to recapitalize. Thus, they will always be dependent on the federal government until they are fully capable of recapitalizing to be released from conservatorship. And right now, that's not even in the cards. And you're right, by the way, John, is why would the federal government want to get rid of a cash cow? That's what they have right now.
Not with the spending. So they're in the basement. They can't get out. They're locked in, and they just keep on churning out profit. Last year, there was a big change with second homes and investment properties. Now, second homes used to have beautiful interest rates. You may have to put it like another 5% down, whatever, but they changed because a lot of people were purchasing houses. My theory is a lot of people were purchasing houses as a second home, but then Airbnb in it. And there was a lot of investment paper on the books, and they were scared that a huge recession was coming, and there might be some performance issues on these loans. There's a lot of other theories, whatever. That's just the one that I like. So we saw them really make a drastic change last year. And then January of this year, they come out and say, hey, we're going to change loan level price adjustments. And for everyone that's never priced out a loan, each and every loan, each and every scenario with down payment, credit score, whatever, it's like putting together a Rubik's Cube. And then at the end, it tells you, this is how much it's going to cost for this rate. And we'll look at your charts here in a second, but they changed loan level price adjustments in a big way for people that have good credit that are putting substantial amount of money down. You would think that, hey, if I have a 740 credit score and I'm putting 20% down, that's A++ as it gets. Yeah, you might have a better credit score, or you might want to put more money down, but hell, if I am lending out money and somebody's bringing 20% down, and I already have 20% equity on the debt, if I have to foreclose, I think I'm in a good position to where I think that person is going to pay their payments on time every time. But Fannie comes out and Freddie comes out and says, well, you know what? We're going to change the loan level price adjustment for that scenario. But on the other hand, for lower credit scores, because conventional, I always call it like the country club loan, to where it's harder to get in conventional if you have a lower credit score. It's just going to cost a lot more money on either MI if you're not putting, if you're putting less money down, and also on interest rate. But Fannie and Freddie changed the way that their loan level price adjustments on those lower credit score scenarios, which I think we both agree on, to lower the barrier to entry to get a good loan product for lower credit scores. But we don't like that we're subsidizing the higher credit scores for that adjustment on the lower end. So I'm going to let you just run off the rails, and then we'll try and circle back.
Okay. By the way, for those of you, this is my professional picture that I have when I was a real estate agent. What do you guys think? Pretty good, right?
Love it.
All right. This is we're laughing because it hurts too much to cry. Okay. Imagine a world where if you got speeding tickets, your insurance company would come to you and say, hey, Brian, you drive fast really, really good, so we're going to lower your insurance policy. Imagine that world. Okay. Some of you would like it, but does it make sense? No. Imagine a world where you could eat pizza and drink beer and lose weight. Wouldn't that be great? But that's not the case. Imagine a world where you could eat rock candy and never brush or floss your teeth, and the condition of your teeth would only get better. That doesn't make any sense, does it? That is precisely the logic that has gone into the loan level price adjustments with both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. This is insanity at its absolute worst. It really honestly is. Because what we're doing is we're rewarding irresponsible behavior, and we are doing it at the cost, at the subsidy of those with very good credit and loan profiles. Okay, so let me explain this here. This is the changes that have been made. As we go down this way, your loan to value gets higher. Right here, this is a 30% loan to value. Okay, that means on a $100,000 house, you put down $70,000. You're only borrowing $30,000 on a $100,000 house, which means go ahead and let it get foreclosed. The bank is going to get their money back on that foreclosure. This would be deemed a safe loan. Safe, 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 safe. Up. Once we get to 80%, we know what happens here. MI, mortgage insurance to protect over here. All right, safe. Now a little riskier, 85 to 90%, 90 to 95. 95% or 97% or less. That means 97% or less means you're borrowing 97. So you're putting $3,000 down on a $100,000 house, meaning the bank, their asset that they're lending the money against is highly, highly leveraged. Low risk, high risk. Got it? Okay. Over here, we have high credit score, people with 780 credit scores. If you have a 780 credit score, you've got 3 or 4 credit cards. You have minimal balances on them, if any, that you use on a regular payment. You have a history of installment payments, maybe on a car, whatever the case is. You made that, perhaps you've owned a couple houses before, paid those, never had late payments on anything, no collections, no debt, no bankruptcies, nothing like that. Okay. You got great credit. Then we go down higher risk profile. Okay. So we go down to 760, 770, 740. 720, 700. We're still doing pretty good here at 700, aren't we? 680. You're a great FHA candidate. 660. You might be an FHA candidate. 640. Probably not anymore. 639 and lower. You're not at all. Now, here's the thing. I understand that FHA goes down to 560, but go ahead and get that thing approved. Okay. So higher risk, higher risk. That means if we connect these two dots, this down here in the corner would be the highest risk loan. This is the lowest credit score and the highest LTV. Okay. This is the person you don't want to lend money to. Their pricing just got 1.75% better. On a $100,000 house, they would have to pay $1,750 less today than they would a couple of weeks ago. It actually got better for them. Okay. Now let's just assume that this person here who has no money to put down, hasn't saved anything, and has screwed up all their credit, who just got a 175 bump better for them. Let's say they did the stupidest thing in the world and they decided to pay some bills on time. Let's say that they actually paid their credit cards down. And let's say for some reason they saved up a little money and they now have 5% down to make that loan less risky. They just screwed themselves. They did, because let's go on the matrix. 95% loan to value. Let's go down here and let's go to a 640 credit score, which is over here. They have a higher credit score and a bigger down payment. Now the bump that they get is only 1.25 on a $100,000 house. They just lost a $500 benefit. If only they would miss more payments and not put that money down on a house, their situation would have been better. Oh my goodness. This is illogical. Now, here's how we know it's a subsidy. The darker the green it is, the better the benefit. All the dark green is down here where it's high loan to value and low credit scores. Now, when we start to go to the orange, as we're just going up, by the way, this is the best credit profile. This is the worst. As we start to migrate towards the best, what happens? We go from a light orange to a dark orange to a red to a dark red. Guess what's the worst? The dark green is the best, so the dark red is the worst. So what's the profile of a person with the dark red? This person right over here is somebody who has 20% to put down on their house. On a $400,000 house, that's $80,000. Okay. And this is somebody with a 740 to a 759 credit score. This is a person who pays all their bills on time, has saved all their money, has done every single thing the right way. And on the same day, the jackass who does everything wrong gets a 1.75 benefit to the cost that he's already paying. The person who's done everything right is going to pay 75 basis points more. or on that $400,000 house, it has now become $3,000 more expensive for that person, right? Think about that. And let's just say, and I'll finish up here. Let's say this person with the credit, here's how I'm going to advise them. Well, you're putting 20% down. What if you only put 10% down? Let's make it more risky. And do me a favor. Quit making your payments on time. Just go get 30 days on all your credit. I really and you know what'd be better? If you could default on a loan right now, that would be great. Go to the hospital, have a hospital bill, and then don't pay it. And miss all your credit card payments. Oh, or charge them up. That would be better. Max all your credit cards out. If we were to do that, put 10% down, okay, and screw up our credit to where we got down to a 680, that means that $3,000 benefit, or excuse me, that $3,000 cost would now go down to an eighth of 1%. That's $125 per 100,000. So that's $250. So that $3,000 goes down to $500. If only you would miss more payments, look at how much more you would save. This here is insanity. Now, I want to put a caveat here so people understand this. How it stands right now for Fannie and Freddie is it is more expensive to get a house with crap credit. Okay, they have reduced their loan level price adjustments. Okay, so they're still going to pay more, but it's not going to be as much as they did before. But you see, the thing is Fannie and Freddie aren't going to make less money. Remember, I told you that whole profitability better than anyone ever. If they're going to make this cut down here, they want to pick it up somewhere else. They're going to do it off people with great credit. Now, this comes at a really interesting time when Fannie and Freddie's profits are down because we're not selling houses like we used to in years past. So they want to make more money. Remember how the Treasury's taken all the money? Well, they want more of it and the profits are down right now. This is a great way to increase profits. Here's the reason why. All these loan level price adjustments down here for people with crap credit, I got news for you. They're not buying houses anyways. They're not. Because the people, and because I don't disparage folks with bad credit down here, these are underserved communities, oftentimes minority communities. These are people who are lower on the socioeconomic rungs in most of our cities across the country right now. And it could be anybody of any race or any gender. Poverty has no boundaries, does it? Poverty is colorblind. But see, if you're making $30,000 a year, it's going to be harder for you to pay bills, pay medical collections, and things of that nature than somebody who makes $300,000 a year. So the vast majority of folks who fall down here, the low credit score folks, are going to be low wage earners as well. With a median sales price of a house at $425,000 right now, anywhere in the country, including Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, and North Dakota, okay? These people can't buy a house. They can't buy a house for half that price, let alone the full price right now. So this right here is a really great way to say, well, we're helping underserved communities. BS, you're helping underserved communities because nobody can afford any house in this country right now. So nobody is going to be taking advantage of these cuts. The only thing they're going to be doing is raising profits over here for people with good credit. That is absolutely it. And there's no two ways about this, guys.
And so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And to prove my point one last time, if we think that we're helping underserved communities and we're helping those or low to moderate income folks, did you know that right now Hispanic Americans and African Americans have a lower home ownership rate today than they did in the 1960s when we still had Jim Crow laws on the books? And you could find in a deed of trust that you were not allowed to sell or rent your house to an African American, to a Black person. You couldn't do it. Home ownership rates were higher then than they are right now. And think about this for a moment. Since the 1960s, we're looking at 6 decades right now, the GSEs, courtesy of the federal government, with all of their mandates, have thrown hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars for almost 100 years now to correct this problem, and we are worse off today than we were 70 years ago. So I ask you, with this in mind, are we truly helping underserved communities right now, or is this just a cash grab by the federal government, courtesy of the Treasury? Because right now, our income, right now profits are down, and the Treasury doesn't like that.
Yeah, and the thing is the cash grab, and everyone had the May 1st, today's date, like, oh, interest rates are going to change. This is for any loan that's delivered to Fannie and Freddie as of today going on. So for it to be delivered to the agency, it already had to close and fund and then be sent to Fannie Freddie. Investors that we go through, that we get the money from, and that purchase our loans, they've already baked this into pricing 45 days ago. So anybody that you closed in the past month and a half, they've already gotten smoked by this. So ultimately, 720 credit score, putting 20% down, $400,000 loan, it costs them $2,000 more, or somebody $2,000 more to close that scenario than it did January 1st. Now you have another chart, and I want to touch on it because I know we're coming up against time, but I know you're somewhat tongue in cheek on missing payments, but there
Totally,
is a lot of truth to
100%,
that.
by the way.
Yes, but we just still want to show them that, hey, don't tell them to miss their payments, because if you have a 640 score, your loan level price adjustments are still a lot larger than a 740. It's you're still borrowing the money cheaper. It's just not as cheap as it was in January or at the beginning of Feb. So can we just go over that chart real quick so they can kind of see? Do you have that behind you?
I don't, but I can explain what's going on here. So right now, remember I told you the worst of the worst over here is going to be a credit of a 175. Okay. Well, here's the thing. That's coming off of a cost of 3.5%. So when you're looking at 3.5%, you're going to be pulling 175 off of that. So it's going to be, what is 3.5? I don't have it in front of me. We're pulling 1.75 off it. So 3.5, 2.5, 1.5, 1 3/4. So it would be still would be a cost above your par pricing of 1.75%. It just won't be 3.5%, if that makes sense. Further, when you have better credit scores, when you have the highest credit scores and the lowest loan to value, you're going to get what's on our loan level price adjustments. You're going to be getting credits back to you. Okay. So the person with the greatest credit score, you could have a 50 basis point rebate. And I'd say, well, now you're going to be charged 75 basis points. So the net at the end of that is take our 50 basis point positive less our 75 basis points. And that's going to put you at a quarter cost. So this is going to adjustments that are already in place, and adjustments, our loan level price adjustments are always going to benefit those that have better credit. Okay. So these costs that we have, these additions that we have, is this real money? It absolutely is real money. It 100% is, but it's going on top of a matrix that already exists that is swayed towards people with good credit, mind you, as it should be, because as I used for my scenario at the beginning, you don't get lower insurance when you get 10 speeding tickets. You do get lower insurance when you don't get speeding tickets and you don't crash your car. Okay. And that's how we all look at this and say, yes, that's a normal world. We do get in better shape when we eat salads and we don't have that peanut butter bacon double cheeseburger. Yum. With a couple of beers, stouts nonetheless. We do have better teeth when we brush and floss and do all that stuff. Okay. So we have sanity that is behind the insanity that we have simply layered on top of it. And Sean, I want to bring something else up just real quickly, if I could. And and can I screen share here?
Unfortunately not. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I want to let you guys know that as of this late last week, it was on Thursday, Patrick McHenry, and Patrick McHenry is the chairman of the House Committee on Financial Services, and Warren Davidson is the chairman on the Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance of the Housing Committee on Financial Services. That's a mouthful. Both of our House of Representatives just sent a letter to the FHFA director who holds Fanie and Freddie in conservatorship, Sandra Thompson, expressing their disapproval of the loan level price adjustments as they are right now and the ones that are to come, and explaining their view as to how this is going to adversely affect the economy. And at a time right now with hyperinflation and with houses being more expensive than they've ever been, with rates going through the roof over the past 6 months, the last thing we need to do is create more barriers and higher costs for those who are looking to finance the purchase of a home right now. Yet that's precisely what we've done with Fanie and Freddie, who represent over 50% of all loans on all mortgages in the entire country. So we do have a little bit of a groundswell that's going on right now. This is really promising to see that a couple folks in the House Financial Services Department or committee has gone out there and actually put ink to paper and sent this over to the FHFA director to repeal this. But the second part of it is that they're going to also have a demonstrative debt to income loan level price adjustment that's going to come this August if there's no checks that are put in front of it. So we really want to create a groundswell of support saying, hey, listen, this is a bad move. This is not good for anybody. We need to look at repealing this. And conveniently, we put out a petition. And if we can get you folks to sign it and advocate for it, it's not only good for your business as a realtor or lender, it's good for your communities and your borrowers as well.
For sure, for sure. Okay, and I know it looks like we can. Let me just show this real quick of what you were just talking about. And you should be able to see the purchases outright chart, correct, Brian?
Yep.
Okay, what we're looking at is a 640 to 659. Say they put 20% down. It's on a $100,000 deal. It's going to cost them $2,250. If you're 740 to 759, it's going to cost you $875. This is the number that got worse. It used to be less money to borrow at this credit score. So to tell people to go out and miss payments and you're going to get a better interest rate if you're 640, that's not the case. These guys got better. The hits got less, but these got larger. So it closed the gap a little bit. But we still want people to make their payments on time, have the best credit scores you possibly can, all that good stuff.
Yes.
But this is the crap that really irks the hell out of us, is that it's a straight money grab for people that are doing things the right way and making their payments on time and actually have a couple nickels to rub together and put down on a damn house. Now it's going to cost you that much more. And that might not be dollars and cents, but let's say that the par rate is just 6%. Par rate at 6% from raw, I'm going to have to the client's going to have to pay 0.875. Well, what if they don't want to pay that extra money? Well, they can take a higher interest rate. They can take a 6 1/8, 6 1/4, 6.375. Then it would eliminate basically it would eliminate that extra cost. So, what will end up resulting is that the client has a higher interest rate if they're not paying for that extra $875, or if they don't get sellers to pay for it, or if the lender's not able to lend or credit for it or whatever. Ultimately, the government said, hey, we're going to charge more money for this. We don't care who in the hell pays it, but we're going to take it. And unfortunately, it's coming against borrowers and sellers, and this, I don't know. We can complain and bitch. I just want to educate, but I do like what you're talking about, that we do have some boots on the ground that are actually going out and trying to raise a voice and smoke some people around. Lisa wants to know, do you have the link for the petition, please? Can you throw that in the chat, Brian?
Yeah, we absolutely will. So we'll have that in here in just a couple of moments after we jump off. For those of you who are watching right now, just check down in the links. We will have a link we'll have a link to the petition there. And again, sharing is going to be beneficial as well. Don't just sign the petition, but send it out to everybody you know in and outside of the industry. It's the more of a groundswell we get, the bigger the impact we could have.
Yeah. And I just shared a link that I was using where you can find these charts, and it kind of explains through mortgagenewsdaily.com. It really explains what is going on, that you can use as reference whenever you're talking to your clients or your sphere or anybody that's asking a question. Because I was at my 7-year-old, we went to a birthday party, and one of the moms there is like, oh, well, what do you think about this? And everybody's talking about it and thinking that, oh, today's the day that rates just went up. Unfortunately, it was 45 days ago, and this is the reason why, and it's a bunch of BS. So let's shake some people. So that's all I got today, Brian.
Shake them.
Yeah, it's a Monday kind of show. All right, boss. We will see you next month, June, and there'll be something else to talk about, because this is always changing landscape in this business.
Yes, it is. You know what? It's going to start to get better. I'm telling you right now. I predict unicorns and rainbows next time.
I'm hoping, because May 10th, that's a big day for us. Hopefully, come on,
Let's do it.
All right, boss. We'll see you next week or next month.
All right.
Bye, everybody.